We begin today with devastating news from New Zealand, where 2 mosques were targeted in a terrorist attack. 49 people were killed, including children, and more than a dozen injured. 3 people have been arrested and remain in custody now. However, the investigation is still ongoing. RT Sarah Montes de Oca is outside of the White House for us with the latest developments. Sarah?
President Trump is meeting with national security officials at the Pentagon, but earlier today he took to Twitter to give his warmest sympathy for the people of New Zealand after the horrible massacre in the mosques. The U.S. stands by New Zealand. All we can do, God bless all. New Zealand confirmed there were 49 people dead, over 20 wounded, seriously injured, including children. Now, it took place in the Christchurch city in New Zealand. One Australian has been charged with murder, a 28-year-old Australian national. Now, the gunman used social media to live stream the attack on Facebook. It was a 17-minute attack. Facebook actually took the video down as soon as they could, but the 17-minute long video had already gone viral and circulated. Now, one witness explained what he saw.
And also I saw some people had blood on their body, and some people were limping. At that moment, I realized that it was really serious.
A law enforcement official told CBS News that the shooting suspect in custody told that other individuals were planning additional attacks in other mosques around New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern called the massacre an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence in New Zealand's darkest days.
We are a proud nation of more than 200 ethnicities, 160 languages, and amongst that diversity we share common values. And the one that we place the currency on right now and tonight is our compassion and the support for the community of those directly affected by this tragedy. And secondly, the strongest possible condemnation of the ideology of the people who did this. You may have chosen us, but we utterly reject and condemn you.
The New Zealand government has advised members of the New Zealand Islamic community to stay away from places of worship until further notice. Now, according to an Australian gun expert who we spoke with in 2018, New Zealand's gun laws aren't as strict as some of their neighboring countries like Australia. New Zealand does not allows for ownership of semi-automatic weapons, and most guns can actually be sold legally on the internet. Reporting from the White House, Sarah Montes de Oca, RT.
Now, of course, this shocking terror attack in Christchurch, all live streamed on Facebook Live, highlighting the platform's inability to prevent disgusting footage like this from reaching the public. This on the heels of Facebook Chief's Product Officer abruptly resigning yesterday. Joining us to further discuss, investigative journalist Ben Swan. Now, Ben, I want to say off the top that I don't believe the resignation of the CPO had anything to do with the shooting. I think it was ahead of this shooting. However, there's a lot for Facebook to deal with here. Again, they're coming under fire today because the alleged shooter in New Zealand was broadcasting this horror for 17 minutes. Unfortunately, Ben, acts of this nature are not the first to be caught on Facebook Live. For example, the 2016 police shooting of Philando Castile in Minnesota. Ben, what can be done to prevent stuff like this from being live streamed?
Well, so a couple things on that. Number one, you're right. The chief product officer at Facebook had resigned prior to this. That has to do with privacy issues and a lawsuit that's now underway, and possibly a federal grand jury. On this issue, what can Facebook do to prevent acts of terror or horrific crimes from being live streamed? Nothing. There's absolutely nothing you can do to stop evil people from utilizing the platform to demonstrate or promote the evil that they're perpetrating. However, having said that, what Facebook can do is only react to those kinds of videos. And so I think there is an argument to be made here that Facebook really should be focusing its efforts in terms of censorship on blocking these kinds of things or stopping them from happening, as opposed to the kind of censorship that we're seeing Facebook pour a lot of resource and effort into, which is really the censorship of news and dissension content, not violence. And so I think there could be an argument made here for Facebook refocusing its efforts on stopping the live stream of violence on their platforms.
Right. So obviously, Ben, we know that they have the technology to be able to censor whatever they want. Right. They're obviously able to take down news sites or fan pages or what have you. And there are people that are monitoring, I guess, various sites like.
All kinds of things.
All kinds of. They're monitoring us.
They're monitoring all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So
all the time.
It's strange that there's not enough ability to prevent the moment something like this happens from being broadcast. So Facebook quickly removed the video from this gunman. They also removed the guy's Facebook page, his Instagram account, his apparent 70-page manifesto. That's been posted all over to various sites.
Yeah.
People are working to take that down. But my question to you, Ben, should they? Does the public have a right to at least read this madman's inner thoughts?
So I think that's a great question. First of all, the idea that Facebook wants to remove all of his accounts and get rid of him on Instagram, and I guess part of the question for that is why. The argument can be made that his actions will encourage others to do violent things as well, and that there may be truth to that. But here's another reality. This is clearly a very disturbed, perverse, violent individual who committed this act, and it's a horrific, evil act. But scrubbing the internet of this person's presence doesn't mean that the evil act won't be talked about. It will be. It will be portrayed in media. It will be talked about by media. The problem is that media will now focus and shape this individual and their beliefs into what they want it to be. Whether it be right or wrong, that's what they will do. So they will build a narrative around this person. And so for those who want to truly understand who this person was and see the depths of the depravity there, I don't think it's wrong for them to be able to see that for themselves, as opposed to relying on journalists or whoever to create this narrative and explain it to them.
And Ben, another interesting thing about this particular shooter, unlike usually, I hate that we can say usually in these mass shootings, that he, along with, for example, the Marjorie Stoneman shooter, he is still alive, he's in custody, but media outlets are withholding using his name because they say they don't want to make him famous or infamous in this case. They say this is what the guy wants. Is that the right course of action for us in media to just kind of it's more kind of, I guess, watering it down or whitewashing what's happening?
I don't know if it's so much whitewashing. I don't think there's anything wrong with not using the gunman's name, because I do agree that the goal here is to become famous. A lot of the things that this guy who's Australian was saying is utter nonsense. I mean, he's making these claims about President Trump and President Trump renewing power to white people, and then saying he was trying to control or have an effect on political discourse in the United States. An Australian national who commits an act of terror in New Zealand is trying to influence U.S. policy. That seems very strange to me. And so, I understand the idea of not wanting to make him famous. But at the same time, I think that we have to put this person into context, because we know, Manila, what's going to happen over the next 48, 72 hours is going to be nonstop talk about how he represents a culture of people who are anti-government and pro-gun and pro-terror and anti-Islamic. And they're going to the media will build a narrative around this person rather than just pointing out that this person is a deranged individual. Right. He does not necessarily speak for a group of people.
Right. It's very important to point out that there are people that are just always going to be unhappy about the government or, immigration, or you can name a number of things, dirty diapers, whatever. There's going to be a contingent of people that are not going to like anything, but not everybody is going to go out there and react the way this guy did. So,
right, and if I could just say real quick too, that's absolutely true. And the other thing is, we do not do a service to the fact that there are people out there who are very angry and frustrated with the systems that are in place, and many of those people are putting their efforts and energies in the wrong places. Right. To dismiss them or pretend they don't exist does not do anything to change that. We need to address those concerns, address what they're frustrated with, and help them to fight and come out of those places, bring them out of the shadows rather than just pretending they don't exist.
Right. A lot of it stems from mental illness, so we have to address all of those things. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today, Ben Swan.
Manila, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.